Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 10. I'm so sorry that this is coming a little bit late, but I had some technical difficulties this morning. You guys, we only have 4 more weeks of class. So that means that we have one more paper after the one we're turning in and then our final. So that's it. We will be finishing Citizen this week. So please make sure that you watch this lecture as usual and you really spend time actively reading Citizen. You will be participating in a citizen discussion, as usual, about these pages, and then you'll be completing the rest of your creative project, the citizen collage, and I will go over that in more detail. So, actively reading Citizen 139 to 161. We're going to start by talking about the painting that's at the very end of the book. It's found on pages, pages 160 and 161. And this is The Slave Ship by Joseph Mallard William Turner. It's dated about 1840. And there's also a close-up detail of fish attacking slave ship from the slave ship. So you see this full painting and then you also see this smaller section, okay? We're going to watch a short video right now about this. So let's see if this works. Hopefully you can see.
We're standing in the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, in front of what we know as Turner's Slave Ship. But the full title of this work is Slave Ship, Slavers Throwing Overboard the Dead and Dying, Typhoon Coming On.
You know, when we first come across this painting, it looks really beautiful. It's got oranges and reds, and we see that typical Turner sunset. We're lost in the thick sensuality of the paint.
But then my eye goes to the bottom right-hand corner, and in a moment of horror, I see a foot and a leg and a shackle in chains, and all of a sudden it's not a seascape, and it's not about a sunset, and it's not about light on the water, or not only about those things anymore.
There's real carnage right in front of us, in fact, in the closest part of the painting towards us. So we're looking at an image of a slave ship that we can see in the distance. This is a ship carrying slaves, and a typhoon has come on. This is based on a poem, but we know that this is something that happened in reality, and not just once, but many times. With the storm coming, the captain of the ship decided to throw the slaves overboard. Apparently, that was the only way you could collect the insurance. If the slaves died of illness or other things while on board, the captain of the ship couldn't claim insurance. So what he's done is he's thrown the slaves overboard, and that's what we see happening.
It is really horrifying. We only see parts of their bodies, and there's a swirl of waves and colors. And again, there's this mixture of the beauty of nature, the power of nature, and this horrific human act that is within the context of a much wider horrific human act of slavery.
We do have this sense of divine retribution, the storm coming for that slave ship that's been dealing in human lives, and the punishment wreaked by nature is justified on that ship. But there's also a sense of the total indifference of nature, because the same storm that's going to overcome that slave ship is also going to drown the slaves themselves.
Nature is completely indifferent to the human endeavors, whether they are good, evil, otherwise, whatever.
So the first owner of this painting was the great Victorian art critic John Ruskin. Then the painting made its way to Boston to an abolitionist, to someone who believed in and struggled for the ending of slavery. Now, the British had outlawed slavery in 1833 in the colonies. The French do it in their colonies 15 years later, but of course in America, slavery isn't outlawed until the Civil War. So slavery, we have to remember, is still a really active political cause at this moment. This idea that human beings could do this to each other, not just in the form of actual slavery, of buying and selling human beings, but also in terms of taking advantage of one another just for the sake of money. And of course, that's the kernel of this hideous act that the captain engages in here.
When we look into the left quarter of the painting, we see some really different colors than what we see in the rest of the painting. Whites and blues and purples and grays.
Ruskin wrote, "Purple and blue, the lurid shadows of the hollow breakers, are cast upon the mist of night, which gathers cold and low, advancing like the shallow of death upon the guilty ship, as it labors amidst the lightning of the sea, its thin masts written upon the sky in lines of blood."
All right, guys, I hope that was helpful to get some background on this really horrific and also beautiful painting at the same time. There's a real reason why Claudia Rankine included this as the end piece of art in this section, the very end of Citizen. So there's also background information about the Zong massacre, which is what this is based upon. Um, so if you want some more information about it, I highly recommend looking into that article. Um, we're going to skip this section because these are notes that you're actually going to be working on. So discussing the rest of Citizen. So in our discussion this week, as usual, I want you to actively read these pages. Claudia Rankine is kind of bringing together all of the main elements she's been threading through this whole book in these last pages. And I'd like you to actively read these pages and then answer one of these questions. You'll also not be able to see your peers' answers until you answer the question. So after you make your first post, which has to be at least 250 words, and you're welcome to add in extra content like graphics or um, videos or whatever you think would help us learn more about this topic. Um, and then after you post your topic by Saturday, this Saturday at 11:59 p.m., then you need to respond to at least 3 of your peers' posts with a significant response, adding more to the discussion. Your response needs to be at least 150 words, and that's due actually on Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. So the final thing we're going to be working on this week is our writing assignment. This is the second part of our citizen collage. I think some of you were confused last week. I saw a few of you in office hours. This is a 2-week assignment, and this is the second week. Last week, you were just supposed to find some sort of image or video that affected you either negatively or positively in some way. And I wanted you to, just the same way that Claudia Rankine used the clip from the World Cup as a way to make a collage of quotations. So hopefully your free writing kind of opened up some ideas of what you were thinking about. This week, what you're going to do is you're going to take that um, image or video, and you're going to make a collage of quotations from other sources. Now remember, the image or the video does not have to be from Rankine's book. In fact, I would prefer it not to be. I want you to find something that's meaningful to you. And then think about, based on your free writing, what are the ideas that came up? For example, I'm going to take you through my chosen image that I would be writing about and take you through that process. But you want to search for quotations from different texts, newspaper articles, or from famous quotations from literature that speak to these feelings that come up to you about this image or video. Okay, and you're going to be creating a collage of those quotations. None of this is your work. It's only a collage of other people's words. And you need to post that by 11:16 at 11:59 p.m. So just as a reminder, Claudia Rankine's text had these quotations on the left-hand side, right? And then the person who wrote it on the right-hand side. You are welcome to lay it out this way, or you can lay it out any way that you'd like. You do need to include the image or video in some way in what you turn in, okay? So to give you an example, if I were going to be writing about this really chilling, intense uh, painting, right? Um, by Turner, I could start looking up, and I did a free write, and the idea that came up was freedom and slavery and corruption and greed. And so I started thinking of these words that really started resonating with me. And so I started doing some searches, just quotations on freedom, right, in Google. And I found from Martin Luther King, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. And maybe I want to repeat that like in different parts, right? I mean, it's like writing a poem, right? You're just going to be threading these through to make us feel a feeling. Then I also thought about Abraham Lincoln's words: those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves. Because that idea of the ship, maybe going down after doing this hideous act, made me think about that. And then, of course, I started thinking about uh, what it would be like, right, to be uh, one of those slaves that's thrown in the water and being attacked, and hoping they find peace in the freedom of their minds as they that idea of freedom, how it's your own thing, even if someone completely oppresses you physically. You have your own mind. So that idea from Bob Marley that none but ourselves can free our minds. So this is just a starting place. What I would do from here is I would start, um, I'd find more quotations, again, doing searches in like in Google, just looking up words that strike me, right? I'd probably do some work on greed, and then I would start putting these on a document, and kind of showing them in a pattern to make me feel something. Okay, so just maybe I'm going to repeat "Let freedom ring." Maybe not the whole quotation next time. So maybe next time I just put "Let freedom ring," and then um, uh, free our minds, or I can just take pieces of it and start making it into my own collage. Now you can have any kind of artistic freedom here to make what you want. You just have to cite the sources in some way. So there needs to be a place where I'm going to know that from every mountainside let freedom ring is from Martin Luther King. Okay, if you have questions about this, don't hesitate to ask me. Okay, it will be an MLA formatted paper, but again, you have to include the artwork, and you need to include um, the quotations. Like, it's all a collage, like a collage made of quotations of other people's words. But you can use pieces of them, you can move them around however you'd like. All right, so after you finish all this, you'll be done with week 10, and then we'll be in the final stretch of this week, you guys. You're doing such a great job. Make sure that you watch this lecture. If you're confused, go back and watch it again. Spend some time really understanding that Turner painting. Actively read these pages in Citizen. There's some really wonderful quotations in here that should resonate with you. And then after you participate in the discussion, make sure that you don't only post your own posts, but you respond to at least 3 of your peers' posts. And then your final writing assignment, part 2 of writing assignment 5, is due this week. If you have any questions, as usual, just reach out to me. Otherwise, I will see you online.